Hello and welcome to my channel. I am Zodiac Bandit, and today we have some spoilers for Campaign 3 of Critical Role up to episode 78. So if you aren't caught up with Campaign 3, go get caught up. That's what I've been saying at the beginning of all these videos for the last, I think, 2 weeks, 3 weeks now, because there's been a lot to talk about, and I really want to talk about it all, so I'm talking about it. So spoilers. 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 And with the spoiler warning out of the way, we can now get into today's video, which is who should absorb the Titan Shard after it has been rejected by Ashton. You see, after it was rejected by Ashton, it has been left open to someone else in the party to absorb it and gain a massive benefit from it. So today I want to go over who I think should out of all of the Bell's Hells and what sort of benefits it could give them after they absorb it. So let's get into it. So before I get into who should absorb it, I'm going to talk about who I believe should not absorb it. And obviously the first person on that list is Ashton. Ashton was rejected by it. It was extremely dangerous to try to do it. And he already did get some sort of benefit from it. We just don't know what it is quite yet. And it potentially unlocked whatever was lying dormant within them already with the other Titan, like sort of core inside them. So they did need to interact with it a little bit, and they did do that. But it would be too dangerous to try again. They could try again, obviously, but the risk is way too high, and I don't know if the party has everything they would need to keep Ashton alive at the rate of damage that was happening to them while they were trying to absorb it. So Ashton is sort of off the table. The other two characters who I don't believe should absorb it is Laudna, for narrative reasons, with Delilah being sort of stuck in her. It would be a terrible idea to sort of give Delilah this power up, and Laudna could potentially benefit from a power up, but I honestly think Laudna is powerful enough on her own. She's very good, very well made as a character and like combat sense as well. So I don't think she needs the power up. And the last person is obviously Imogen, a character who I don't believe needs any sort of power up. She's already extremely powerful and doesn't need any sort of benefits. She's been able to destroy city blocks since like episode 38 or 37. I forget which episode she did that in, but she's been able to do that. It's a dormant power within her. I don't think she needs another power up. Her connection to Predathos is already pretty strong. So the fact that she has a summon potentialness to blow up city blocks, was able to send Odahan Thule flying ages ago, I don't think she needs a power up. Now, everyone else on the list could use a potential power up, so let's get into it. So from here on out, everyone could benefit from absorbing the Titan Shard, but not everyone has the exact same sort of need to do so. And first I'm going to talk about FCG. FCG is a character who could take a benefit from absorbing this, whether it be some sort of fire powers to go with them, maybe it'll supercharge their engines or something like that. Frankly, I don't necessarily know what kind of power up this should give FCG, nor do I really think they need it. See, the thing with FCG is they could be a lot more powerful than they are right now. And that is simply just because they need to start using more of the magic available to them. And this is actually not an FCG problem, this is a Sam Riegel problem. Sam has said in Four-Sided Dive in the past that he doesn't want to reuse magic from other people who signature moves, right? That's why he's very limited on using Spiritual Guardians, which he believes is like a very big Caduceus thing. And it is a big Caduceus thing, but he was also hesitant to use Spiritual Weapon because that was a very big Jester thing. And even Guiding Bolt, he's hesitant to use because that seems to be Pike's thing. And I honestly think if FCG were to start using those frickin' spells, because they're so good, those are some of the best spells in all the spellbook in my opinion, because Spiritual Weapon is a bonus action to sort of activate, and it gets to hit using your bonus action, which is good. And then Spiritual Guardians is like a huge defense that could be such a boon to FCG, so to not use these spells, and Guiding Bolt is obviously a ranged attack, which gives someone else, or the next person to attempt to hit, advantage on that target. So these are spells that are very useful that FCG isn't using and needs to start using, and I don't believe a power-up is necessary for FCG to sort of rise to the power level they could be at. So next is Fern, and Fern to most people is the person who should absorb the Titan Shard. Now she has an affinity for fire, her entire class is based around fire, so she should be the one to absorb it. She is a fire-based fighter, and a Titan Fire Shard is right up her alley. That being said, there are two things that sort of stand in the way for me and for her to absorb it. First and foremost, narratively speaking, Fern doesn't fucking want it. I have to repeat this again and again because I see this everywhere, that Fern should absorb it. Fern has said multiple times she does not want it, and that someone else should take it. So Fern saying she doesn't want it because she's afraid of what she could turn into is a huge problem and a huge hurdle to jump over. That being said, with them being at Nana Mori's currently, there is a chance that she will overcome this fear of whatever darkness that could lie within her, and she could take it. The other thing is, I don't think she needs the power up. She doesn't need the power up because she's already received a different power up from a different source. In fact, there's two potential sources for her to already receive a power up. And in my opinion, we might actually be seeing a third choice for her to receive a power up that isn't the shard. First and foremost, she got a boon from Captain Novos while they were on the ship traveling in the Shattered Teeth. We know this. There is something there that is happening with her for her powers. We don't know. All we do know is that it seems to be ice-based. So she already has a power-up that other people don't have, and some people need a power-up right now. So she has a power-up on the way. Not to mention, she has a, Call of Asmodeus on her hand. She doesn't necessarily need another thing when she has Asmodeus on speed dial. So there is something else that she has already that is, not necessarily, she doesn't need another thing. But we're also in a place where we could learn a bit more about Fern right now in the story, which could lead to her getting some sort of hag benefit or hag boon from Nana Mori. So she has 3 places right now where a potential power-up is sort of aimed at her. So she doesn't need the Titan Shard when there are other characters who need it far more than her. Chetney is the next character I want to talk about here because he also has a mild affiliation with fire. His Crimson Right ignites into fire. So he has an affiliation or an affinity with fire. So a fire power-up could be a massive boon. And I actually see it like sort of taking shape in the form of his wolf transformation, where he sort of transforms and like gets a fiery mane or something on his back or a fiery bit of hair, and it increases the power of the Crimson Right. The only issue I have with this is it would actually make every other Crimson Right that he does have another ice one, it would make it significantly worse to use anything but the fire one. So realistically, yes, he could receive a massive benefit from it, as he can ignite his weapons in fire, and he can ignite his claws in fire, and there could be something nice for him to gain there with the whole fire thing. But it makes his other Crimson Rights significantly worse, so unless this Titan Shard boosts all of his Crimson Rights, I don't think this is something that he should take either. Not to mention, I also think that Chetney is in a great place right now to receive a different type of buff to his werewolf transformation whilst in the Feywild. They have the harness, they are in a magical place, there's a ton of magic surrounding them at all times in the Feywild. He could take the harness and go power himself up and then receive the same sort of power-up he got when they were trying to sort of get him control of his werewolf form. The massive Chetney werewolf form. I think we're in an actual good spot for him to go absorb something else to gain that power-up, which would be really cool for me, because I think Chetney, while Chetney does need a bit more oomph behind him, he is the characters who on my list of people who need power-ups kind of lower because he's kind of versatile. He's got a lot of stuff going for him, so I don't necessarily know if he needs a power-up, but one could be useful for him. And the person who I believe should absorb the shard, Aurum. Aurum is a character who has sort of fallen behind as far as power goes. He is a character who just actually received a massive boon in the fact that he can do 3 attacks per turn now, which can be upped to 6 attacks per turn now with Action Surge, but only once. So while it is huge for him to have this 3 attacks, Seedling isn't enough of a power-up to me to where he can hang with the rest of them. He's going to continue falling off, especially when you look at the other 2 sort of melee classes we have, with Chetney and his Crimson Rights being a massive thing, and his werewolf transformation, and then Ashton obviously has his hammer, whatever it does, it refracts the spells or whatever, if that's something they need to do, but also he has Rage, which is built around Dunamancy and Possibility. So these 2 both have some sort of transformation or pseudo-transformation, and I think they buff them quite considerably. So Aurum needs some sort of buff, in my opinion, to sort of stay relevant, with the exception of I can attack a bunch, which is nice. Yes, he has range with Seedling, but imagine that that wind gust slash being able to ignite and catch on fire and deal a little bit more extra damage from fire, and potentially even start a burning effect if they are wearing something that could catch fire. Or imagine he whips out Seedling and it suddenly ignites and the whip vine goes around them and it's now constantly burning as long as he holds on to them until they break out, which could take up an enemy's action, which action economy is the way you win. You want to control action economy. Imagine taking an entire turn away from someone to try to rip off a flaming vine, or you're stuck with it and now you're taking extra damage as you're trying to attack people. That is huge. That could be a huge boon. He could also get a pseudo transformation of his own to turn into some sort of fire elemental. He is from the Ashari people. An elemental form or some sort of fiery form wouldn't be too far off from staying in base. He actually already has wind powers, both with the air slash and with gust of wind, so adding fire powers would just be right up his alley. So there you have it. I think Orym is the best candidate for absorbing the Titan Shard because honestly, he needs it the most out of everyone else in the group. He is the one who I can see falling off the hardest and needs something to catch up, and Seedling alone isn't enough. It is the only thing in his arsenal that is sort of something like this. Yes, he has other magic items, but they don't do what he needs to do to sort of stay relevant. And I think giving him the power of the Titan Shard would not only be fitting with the whole elemental thing that the Ashari people have, but it would just be nice for him to have a sort of benefit. And the way I could see it interacting with Seedling, or even interacting with Gust of Wind, which would be cool to sort of have him sort of set something on fire and then he uses Gust of Wind or Air Slash to increase the fire as it's burning. I think that'd be really cool. But overall, let me know what you think. Who do you think should absorb the Titan Shard and why is it Fern? So yeah, I will see you guys on Friday for the recap of episode 79. It's been a while. Excited to watch the next episode. So yeah, see you guys then. Peace.